Hello, and welcome back to the Fluent Stories, where we explore tales that touch the heart and stir the soul. Today, we're journeying to a quiet, mist-covered mountain village in old Japan, to a time of great challenge and even greater love. This is the story of Isamu and his mother, a tale that beautifully illustrates the timeless wisdom of our elders and the incredible power of a child's devotion. In this serene village, nestled among towering peaks, lived a humble young man named Isamu. He was a farmer, strong and kind, and his world revolved around his aging mother. Their life was simple, filled with the quiet joys of shared meals, stories told by the fireside, and the comfort of each other's company. They didn't have much in the way of material wealth, but their bond was a treasure beyond measure. Isamu cherished his mother, respecting the lines on her face as maps of a life lived with grace and love. She, in turn, saw in him the best parts of herself and the husband she had long since lost. Their small cottage was a haven of peace in a world that was about to be turned upside down. One day, a shadow fell over their peaceful existence. A decree, as cold and sharp as a winter wind, swept through the land from the capital city. The emperor, a man known for his power and his fear of growing old, had issued a cruel and heartless law. He declared that all elderly people in his domain were a burden, useless to the strength of the nation. Therefore, they were all to be abandoned in the mountains and left to perish. The proclamation sent a wave of terror and sorrow through every village. Families were torn apart by the unthinkable choice they were forced to make. The very foundation of their societal respect for one's elders was being shattered by the whim of a ruthless ruler. When the news reached Isamu's village, his heart grew heavy with a dread he had never known. The thought of abandoning the woman who had nurtured him, who had sacrificed everything for his well-being, was simply impossible. He looked at his mother, her hands frail, but her eyes still sparkling with love, and he knew he could not obey the emperor's command. How could he cast away the person who was the source of his own strength and wisdom? Her life was not a burden. It was the bedrock upon which his own was built. For Isamu, this was not a choice. It was a duty born of profound love. He would defy the emperor, even if it meant risking his own life. That night, under the cloak of a moonless sky, Isamu made his decision. He gently lifted his mother onto his back, her small frame surprisingly light, and began the long, arduous journey up the mountain. With each step on the winding path, his resolve hardened. The path was steep and treacherous, but the weight on his back was nothing compared to the weight in his heart. As they climbed higher, his mother, ever thoughtful, did something peculiar. She reached out and snapped small twigs from the branches they passed, dropping them silently along the trail. Isamu, focused on the difficult climb, didn't understand. "Mother," he asked, his voice strained, "what are you doing?" She replied softly, her voice a gentle whisper against his ear. "My son, I am marking the path for you, so you will not get lost on your way back down." Her words struck Isamu like a bolt of lightning. Even in this terrifying moment, facing her own demise, her only thought was for his safety. Her selfless love was a guiding light in the darkness. Tears welled in his eyes, blurring the path ahead. At that moment, he knew with absolute certainty that he could never leave her. He carried her deeper into the forest until they found a small, hidden hut, long abandoned by woodcutters. He made a secret chamber for her beneath the floorboards, a tiny, safe space where he could care for her in secret. He promised to bring her food and water, to protect her no matter the cost. His mother, seeing the fierce determination in his eyes, finally agreed. Her life was now in his hands, a secret hidden from the world. For many months, Isamu lived a double life. By day, he worked in the fields, his face a mask of normalcy. But his heart was always on the mountain. With every sunset, he would secretly carry a portion of his own meager food and water up to the hidden hut. Their clandestine meetings were brief but precious. In that small, dark space, his mother's spirit shone brightly. She was no longer just a woman to be protected. She became his secret counsel, his source of wisdom. He would tell her of the village's troubles, and she, with the clarity and perspective of her years, would offer quiet, insightful advice that helped him navigate the challenges of his life. Their bond, forged in defiance and nurtured in secret, grew stronger than ever. The emperor's law had tried to sever it, but it had only made their connection unbreakable. Meanwhile, the emperor, pleased with his cruel efficiency, grew bolder in his tyranny. He believed his kingdom was stronger without the weakness of the old. To prove his nation's superiority to a neighboring ruler who had mocked his cruelty, he issued a series of impossible challenges. The first was a demand that no one in his land could solve. He demanded a rope made of ashes, a rope of ashes. The challenge was absurd, a paradox designed to humiliate his people. His governors and wisest men were stumped. How could one create a rope from something so fragile and formless? Panic and fear spread once more. Failure to meet the emperor's challenge would surely result in terrible punishment for everyone. When Isamu heard of the impossible task, he felt a familiar despair. But that night, as he sat with his mother in their hidden sanctuary, he shared the problem with her. She listened patiently, a thoughtful glimmer in her eyes. After a moment of quiet contemplation, she smiled. "Do not worry, my son," she said calmly. "It is not as impossible as it seems." She then gave him simple, yet brilliant instructions. First, she explained, take a strong rope of straw, lay it on a row of flat stones on a windless night. Then, set it on fire. Isamu's eyes widened as he understood her simple, elegant logic. Following his mother's instructions precisely, Isamu took a tightly twisted straw rope and laid it carefully on a long, flat stone. He waited for a night when the air was perfectly still, then lit the rope from one end to the other. The flames consumed the straw, but because there was no wind to disturb it, the rope held its shape perfectly. When the fire died down, what remained was a delicate, ghostly rope of fine, gray ash, still coiled in its original form. The next morning, Isamu presented the astonishing creation to the emperor. The court gasped in amazement. The emperor stared, dumbfounded, at the rope of ash before him. He had been so sure the task was impossible. He demanded to know who had been clever enough to solve his riddle. Trembling, but filled with a new kind of courage, Isamu knew he could no longer keep his secret. He bowed low before the emperor and confessed everything. He told the story of how he had defied the decree, how he had hidden his mother in the mountains, and how it was her wisdom, not his, that had solved the impossible task. The entire court fell silent, expecting the emperor to erupt in a furious rage. But instead, the emperor was deeply moved. He listened intently as Isamu spoke of his mother's love, her self-sacrifice, and her sharp intellect. In that moment, the emperor saw not weakness, but an incredible strength he had foolishly tried to cast away. The emperor's heart was changed. He looked at Isamu and saw the truth. The wisdom of the elders was not a burden, but a precious treasure. It was a deep well of knowledge and experience that enriched the entire community. He realized that a society that discards its elders discards its own history, its own soul. With newfound humility, the emperor immediately abolished his cruel law. He declared that from that day forward, the elderly would be treated with the honor, respect, and care they deserved. The land celebrated, and Isamu and his mother were finally reunited, able to live openly and peacefully once more. Their village, and the entire kingdom, learned a valuable lesson that day, that true strength lies not in youthful vigor alone, but in the powerful combination of love, compassion, and the timeless wisdom passed down through generations. And so, our story comes to a close. It's a powerful reminder that love is the most courageous act of all, and that the wisdom of those who have walked the path before us is a guiding light that should never be extinguished. Thank you for joining us on the Fluent Stories. We hope this tale has inspired you. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next story. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and cherish the wisdom in your own life.